Okay, I'm getting ready. There we go. Okay, so I'm coming on a little late. I haven't been exactly on time at 4 every day, so my apologies for that. But I am really excited to come on today and talk about identity. And the reason for that, sorry about this. The reason for that to come on and talk about identity is that so many times I talk to people and they say to me, "Hey, I feel like I can't express who I am," or "My identity is my business card," or "I'm just a student." And we're never just A, right? Our identity isn't just our job title, our title of being a student, a title of being a mom or a dad or a grandparent. We're much more than that. And it's so important to know how to think of our identity and how to express our identity and what it is. So, I wanted to talk about different ways that we can look at that. So, when we think of finding identity at any age, let's start to think about moving beyond school, beyond work, beyond a single label, thinking broader, thinking about evolving a sense of self through self discovery, experience, expression in all different areas of life. So many of us were raised to think that what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's going to be your identity. And so we express ourselves in terms of a title. I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor, I'm a police officer, I'm a whatever we are. And that can make it so that we don't think of any other aspect of our life. So, just to tell you a little bit about who I am, my name is Deborah Heiser. I'm an applied developmental psychologist. I specialize in midlife and aging, and I'm also the author of The Mentorship Edge. In that book, people say, "How does mentoring have anything to do with midlife and aging?" Well, part of finding our identity in midlife and aging and shifting that is through doing things like mentorship and getting outside of our role initially of what we think of ourselves in terms of a job title. It's connecting with others. So if you're interested in mentorship, how it's defined, and all of that, that would be a great book for you to check out. It's called The Mentorship Edge. And it does relate to midlife and aging because in midlife, we're built to mentor. So back to identity. It's really very important for us to get rid of the identity card. So even though we're raised with what do you want to be when you grow up, and that becomes a real theme in our life when we're young, to think about what are we going to be, because that is saying what is your identity going to be when you get older. When we say to ourselves, okay, um, we've now decided what our job is going to be. That's who I am. We are essentially identifying with a business card, or I call it an identity card. It's your job title, it's your status, whatever that is. And so I'm trying to break us all free from that way of thinking. You can have a title, you can have a job, you can be a student, you can be a mom, you can be whoever you are, but you are much, much more than just that. So I'd like you to think about cultivating a much broader look at yourself. Look at yourself in terms of how you evolve. Are you the same as you were when you were 5? Probably not. And look at all the areas of self discovery that you've gone through, finding out who you are in different aspects of your life. What are your experiences? What are the things that you enjoy doing? How do you feel about certain things in the world? How do you feel about whatever it is? It could be nature, it could be food, it could be whatever that is. What do you feel about that? Um, and how do you like to express it? So, if you start to think of yourself in a much broader way, it's a sort of growth that you can come to very quickly when you realize just how many passions you have outside of the label that you've given yourself, where you're just a job title. And it liberates you from being just a piece of an identity card, just having an identity card for yourself. So, how do you look for this? Well, explore your values. What are your values? And we all have values. We're coming up to a whole big holiday season now where you have traditions and values and things like that that are really a part of what you're experiencing right now. So what are your values? It's the giving season. Do you have a value where you have a charity that you like to support? Do you have any kind of value that you say, this is important to me? I want people to know about it. I want to be able to express it more. This is the time to tap into that and think about it. This is the time to look at your passions. Maybe you're passionate about art. Maybe you're passionate about communicating. Maybe you're a passionate creator on social media and you're getting your word out about something that either uplifts people or you make people laugh or you give out information. How do you personally connect with others? And how do you self-reflect? And what I mean by that is when you self-reflect, look at who you are and where you were as a kid. I love to be able to look through old notes and old books, especially with my kids who are grown now, and to say, oh my gosh, do you remember when you used to say that you loved, reading, or you loved art, or you loved film, all of these different things? Where is that in your life now? What do you think about that? Think about that for yourself too. It could be really fun to go even through your camera roll and look through the years and see what were you doing and what were some of the things that were of interest to you, because you might be able to tap back into those. Those are part of your identity that you've just kind of shoved under the rug or put into a closet for a little while. So think about letting some of those things out through self-reflection. When you self-reflect, what is it that you feel about yourself and your values and all of the things that matter to you? Are you living those things? Are they all captured in just your job title or in, your title as mom or as dad or as student? Probably not. Whenever I talk to students, they'll say, well, I'm an athlete. They'll have a few different things that they can say about themselves, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. We have a lot. Our identity isn't split and shifted into many things. It's a part of our whole identity, and we express it in different ways. So another great way is to journal. You can journal by, talking about memories that you've had and things that you enjoy doing. And are you going to get back to that? Is that part of your identity? I've known people who go back to playing instruments when they're older because they liked it as a kid. They left that off and said, that's not part of my identity. And then they went back to it and said, I want to make that part of my identity now. The same with art. A lot of people will pick up art. They loved it as a kid. They let it go for a period of even 20 years or more, and then they come back to it. You don't have to be somebody who's selling $500,000 pieces of artwork. This is just stuff you do for yourself. So, and have really honest conversations with people who know you well. And so they can also say to you, here's how I see you. I don't just see you as your job title. I see you as compassionate, empathic, powerful. I see you as someone who fights for things that matter to you. That when we start to have conversations with others about asking them to tell them how they see us, we can say, yeah, I forgot about that. I didn't really think about it that way. I am powerful. I am someone who speaks my mind. I am someone who's kind and caring. I am a good listener. All of these are part of our personality and part of our identity and part of who we are. So we should really work to incorporate those in as well. Tap into your hobbies. This is a big one. Most people think you're, being lazy if you're pursuing your hobbies. You're not. That's part of your identity. pursue your hobbies, engage in sports, all kinds of arts. Any activity that's purely for enjoyment is you tapping into your identity. That's part of who you are. If you feel like part of your identity is that you're a competitive person, well, then go out and play some sports. That's one way that you can get into it. Play games, play bridge, play cards, whatever you want. Do things that challenge you. Because a lot of people find that that's a way that they can say, you know what, I didn't realize until I challenged myself that this is something that's really core to my identity because I wanted to push through that challenge and see what was at the other end. It was okay to me to work hard at something, even though it felt like there was, maybe some blockages along the way. So there are so many different sides of you. And part of tapping into your identity is really building your self esteem so that you can feel like you have much more going on in yourself and about you than just a job title, which is given to you by somebody else. So it's really labeling these for ourselves. So when you're able to say, yeah, I'm someone who pursues art, I pursue causes, I support um, local causes in my community, I support hunger initiatives, whatever it is, that is a way that you can express those things. So when you volunteer or join any kind of a community group unrelated to your career or studies, you are really getting involved in something that is identity related. You're helping others in new ways, and this is reinforcing your worth, and it's introducing fresh new roles to your identity. So this is a way that you can say, I care for my community. I'm a person who is part of my identity is that I'm an active community participant. I'm someone who likes to help others. Those are parts of our identity. It's not just an action, it's who we are. And it feels much better to be able to have that as part of your identity than just an activity that you do on the side occasionally. It's all in reframing sort of how we think about ourselves. Spending time in leisure. This is not lazy. Leisure is not lazy. A lot of people think that leisure equals lazy, and it doesn't. Leisure is so important for us in terms of our identity because that's where we're tapping into what's really ours. If we didn't have to have a job or, we didn't have some of our titles that we have, leisure is where we tap into who we are and what our identity is. So travel is another thing. If you enjoy travel, get out there and do some travel. Explore new interests, things that you say, I'm not sure, I'm going to try this. Try new things because research shows that these free form contexts are really powerful for discovering and shaping identity at all stages of our life. So a lot of people will say, I'm too old to try something new. I'm too old to learn a new language. I'm too old to do this. You're never too old, literally never too old. So I was just talking to somebody who's in his 80s and he was learning how to text. He was learning how to use his iPhone to text his children and grandchildren. Well, that's learning something new. So he can continue to communicate with his family members, and that's going to help him in terms of how he shapes his identity moving forward. You are never not developing your identity. You're always doing that. Up until our last breath, we are. So when we can start to acknowledge how we see ourselves and how we can frame our identity for ourselves, it's very helpful for ourselves to continue with personal development, personal growth, connections. Those are all linked with better physical health and with better emotional well-being as we get older. So you're never too old. You're also never too young. So, I think it's funny because little kids are always asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there's a lot of pressure around that. And kids will say, what they see around them, and they'll give an answer. But then no one asks that after we're adults. It's like you pick your job and that's supposed to be it. That's your identity for life. We should be continuing to ask ourselves, what do you want to do? Or who else do you want to be? How else do you want to express yourself in the next 10 years? What do you want your next thing to be? Because that promotes sort of a lifelong learning habit that we can get into, a lifelong identity development that we can get into, as opposed to thinking, well, all right, I'm 17 years old. I picked my college major. I guess I'm going to be whatever that is. Or I'm just graduating from high school. Now I'm going to go do my job, and that's going to be what it is. If you talk to people who are, exiting, especially even young, if you were in the military and you're exiting, it's very hard to get a new identity. You had an identity and you were living it, and shifting that can be difficult. If we're always thinking of ourselves, no matter what role we're in, as having fluid things that can add to our identity, and that when you leave it, you didn't leave that behind, that's still in you, but you're going to be adding to it and developing it even more. That's more helpful to us. So no matter your age or what life stage you're in, developing your identity is something that we should always be working on, because otherwise we just stop doing things, and that never leads to good things. So continue growth and development all through life. Make lifelong learning a habit. Take courses. There are so many certificates that you can get online if you want to just try something new. I just decided, I think a month ago, to get certifications in AI, and I did that. And I was like, wow, I've forgot that studying is something you have to do when you're doing these things, but I enjoyed it so much. I was learning something new, and I realized how little I knew and then how much I got to know. And so mastering new skills at any age, even if you say to yourself, I'm not going to use this for a career, I'm going to use this just for my own interest, that is still adding to your identity. Being a person who's a learner or open to new creative things, that can be part of your identity. So seek experiences, get outside your comfort zone, and stay adaptable and curious. Stepping outside of your comfort zone is so easy to say, so hard to do, because no one likes to be uncomfortable. But if you push yourself in a very small way, something that you say, okay, if I fail at this or I don't like it, I'm not locked in. That's the kind of thing. If you take a course at home or an online free course, is there any problem with that? No. Try reading something new that you haven't read in a while, like a different genre, listen to a different kind of podcast. But being adaptable and curious is something that leads to you developing your identity. Build diverse social networks. We're all so good at just keeping our very small network of people that we communicate with. We're so comfortable. But if we start to really expand our social networks with people from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of interests, we get to gain fresh views, and we end up seeing new opportunities for ourselves and how we can think about ourselves, how we can add new things into what we do, and our identity can shift rapidly that way. It also gives us additional support that's independent from our professional circles. So if you start to, really engage with people, even here in new ways in social media, or watch videos in different areas that you're not normally not watching. Expose yourself to new social circles and social networks. You might find that there's a part of your identity that you hadn't tapped into that you want to get back into. Also, treat setbacks and changes as chances for reinvention. Okay, everybody has a setback, right? But take a look at that. Why was there a setback? Is that a chance for reinvention? Can you pivot from that and do something brand new? Try a new professional identity. try a new role at work or in a new field. Accept that, whoever you are is still who you are, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of any setback that you have. You can still always move forward. You can pivot. You can move to the side instead of in this direction. It's all fine. There's no race. So again, my name is Deborah Heiser. I'm an applied developmental psychologist. I specialize in midlife and aging. But I'm talking today about identity. It's something that's so important to us. It's something that we really start to look at in midlife, but we should be thinking about it all of our lives. The reason we start to think about it in midlife is that we often hit a point where we say, oh, hey, who am I? And am I just my job title? And that can be jarring for people. So if we're able to look at our identity beyond our, title at work, or beyond, a label that we have of mom or grandparent, or, whatever it is, student, we feel better about ourselves. It's a sense of comfort. We don't feel like all my eggs are in one basket and it's this one job title. And if I leave it, who am I? Am I no one? I've lost all my power. So let's get back to looking at how we can express ourselves beyond our identity card labels. So if you're introducing yourself, most of us introduce ourselves with our job title, right? So I can say, hi, I'm Dr. Deborah Heiser. I'm an applied developmental psychologist. But, I have found that I can list a lot of different things. I'm an author. I'm an adjunct professor, just in work. I will list off some of the things that I do. I'm a board member. I was a founder. I'm a speaker. So some of the talents that you have are things that you should be thinking of in terms of your identity as well, not just one title. So I'm much more than applied developmental psychologist, right? So when introducing yourself, you have a ton that you can be expressing about yourself. You can lead with your passions. Maybe you're passionate about animals. I'm an animal advocate. I am a person who has a passion for the environment. What are your values? What are your activities like? Are you a nature enthusiast? Are you a people connector? Are you a dedicated community volunteer? That's much different than saying, hi, I'm an engineer, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a police officer, whatever it is. So you have the ability to say different things about yourself that express your identity. Reframe questions about identity by what fulfills or energizes you, like your creative projects, learning quests. Like you could say, I'm a writer, I'm a podcaster, I am, a social media creator. Whatever that is, you can reframe things. You can list things like that are your learning quests. I'm on a quest to learn all about AI. You can say, I'm somebody who values my friendships and family roles. All the time I hear people who will say, I'm a grandparent, and they're very proud about it. Family roles can be something that you put in what you're talking about. And community involvement, that could be faith-based, that could be in anything at all. But thinking about yourself, reframe when you're questioning things about yourself, about your identity, to what fulfills you. So a lot of times people leave some of these things out. They leave out anything faith-based. They leave out family. They leave out friendships. They leave out all of the things that they've been learning. I can't tell you how many times I have met somebody and it took me a while to learn, wow, you do art? Oh, you speak 5 languages? Oh my gosh, I'll find out that they have some kind of hidden thing that's a big part of their life, but they never talk about it in a way that's part of their identity. Express yourself also. Part of identity is being able to express yourself. Express yourself through art, through music, through personal stories or unique self presentations, shaping an identity that's multidimensional, alive, and always growing. You can do that on social media. I also have here an example. Uh-oh, things are going to fall, I think. I have a bunch of stuff on top of it. Let's see. Hopefully not. It didn't. Okay. Things like this. People can make books. This is just made by one of those online, I don't know what was the name of the company, but there's a ton of online places where you can take your photos and make books out of them. And you can put in it, stories and pictures and other things. This is a way for you also to, if you're doing this for yourself or your family, what is your identity within your family? What is your identity within your friend group if you did it with your friends? These are the kinds of things that if you can actually make something concrete to show some aspect of your identity in that way. It's interesting when I looked back through, I didn't know a lot of the people in this. It's, people who are in, my family who are long gone, and I didn't know them well. But I got to understand and see the identity in some of them, in how they dressed, in the stories that were put in there. And so a lot of times we're learning about our identity, not just from our own self-reflection, but by looking back at pictures of ourselves. Who were our friends? What were some of the trends that we were following? What were we involved in? What were we doing? And it's fun to revisit that and to see, where we are now with it. Are we the same person? Have we evolved? Have we changed? Have we added to that? So these are the things that we can do that really can add to what we're doing. When we invest in multiple areas like curiosity and connection and creativity and self-awareness, also our jobs and whatever else is going on, we're creating a sense of a self that's dynamic, that's resilient. If one little thing has a blip, we've still got all the others. So this is why it's so hard if we feel like we have a blip in the one thing we identify as. If we get fired from a job and our identity is our job title, it's crushing. But if we think of our identity as something much bigger than just a job title and all the other things that surround us, it's not crushing. We don't have an injury to our identity. We don't have to say, who am I now? We're still the same person, but this allows us, it gives us a really nice buffer, and allows us to really see ourselves as dynamic, not just unidimensional. And this is empowering. It really helps us to feel like, wow, I have a lot to contribute. My identity is strong. My identity matters. My identity is sustainable. And my identity is giving me personal fulfillment. So identity is much more than what most of us think, which is a label. It's really how we feel. It's how we're trying to always grow our identity and expand upon our identity and make what we're doing in life feel important, right? And identity related. So again, my name is Deborah Heiser. Part of my identity is that I'm an applied developmental psychologist. And part of that, which is good, is that I can shift and do a lot of things within that. I specialize in midlife and aging. I also specialize in mentorship. I'm the author of The Mentorship Edge. And I'm new to TikTok. I'm coming on here talking about the things that I'm passionate about. I'm expressing my identity on here. And so I'm sharing what I know about identity and how it looks over the lifespan, because I have been able to see how people can transform once they're able to see themselves in a much more, dimensional way, in multiple areas, and how that enriches their life and gives them such a sense of power, such a sense of fulfillment, and getting out of that identity trap of just being your job title is super helpful. So how can we think of ourselves outside of work? Think of yourself focus on the qualities of the things that you enjoy, your passions, your values. I just mentioned this before, our roles. all of the experiences that make you unique. You could even have a title. Maybe your title is mom. There's like a billion other moms out there. However, you're unique in how you do that. What is it that you bring to the table with that? What are your values with that? Think about, identify your core values like kindness, curiosity, creativity, and introduce yourself through these qualities. I care deeply about being a parent. I care deeply about creativity and helping others. I care deeply about art. I care deeply about animals. That's much more of a conversation starter than I'm an artist or I'm an architect, or I'm a student. You have a lot to talk about. Make a list of the activities, interests, and causes that bring you joy. Anything that brings you meaning in life. You know, I was talking to students in class today, when I was teaching this morning, and I was asking people what uplifts you. And a lot of people said walking, taking a walk. So it could be hiking, it could be walking. That might be something that's important to you. It's a value, it's something that is interesting to you. And you might overlook that as something in your life that matters to you. But that might be one of those grounding parts of your personality that you identify with somebody who likes to be outside. You like nature. You like breathing in the fresh air. You might be somebody who likes poetry, playing piano, volunteering, traveling, cooking, organizing events. I never knew how much passion was behind cooking until I started to watch videos on people cooking, and I was like, wow, you can make chicken in a million different ways, or you can make cookies a billion different ways. Everyone brings their own identity to things that we do every day. Organizing events. Maybe you're an amazing connector, an amazing organizer. And then describe yourself by what excites or motivates you. Reflect on your roles outside of work or studies. Are you a friend? Are you a sibling? Are you a mentor? Are you a community member? And what is your community? Maybe you belong to several communities. Are you a team player? Are you an artist? Are you an explorer? Are you a learner? Are you a problem solver? There's a million different things that we can look at to reflect on our roles that are outside of work or outside of being a student. So think about your personal story, all of your guiding themes or important experiences. Some of your experiences can be part of your identity. What lessons have shaped you and who you are? And what do you want others to know about your journey? Maybe you moved from someplace to someplace new. Maybe part of your journey is that you lived in several different places, or that you've done several different jobs. Whatever that is, it's an interesting part of your identity. It's funny because a lot of people don't realize how much of an identity where we live is. People will say, I'm a New Yorker. That's part of people's identity. People will say, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from the Bronx. I'm from Long Island. I'm from Westchester. And it becomes part of their identity. The school that you go to, if you're a student, can be part of your identity. All of these things that are related to where we live can be part of our identity. Part of identity for a lot of people is their ancestry. People will say, I'm, a European American, or I'm Jamaican American, or I'm whatever the ethnicity or where your ancestry is from can be part of your identity. Your religion could be part of your identity. There's all these things that we have in our life that we can and should apply to our identity, because it'll make us a much bigger picture and much more dynamic. So practicing introducing yourself with statements like, I'm passionate about, or I love spending time with, or recently I've been exploring, instead of leading with your academic title, that is oftentimes helpful when you're having a conversation and you are trying to express what your identity is at that time, that you're more than just your title. So developing a broader self-concept is really part of identity. So maybe you're somebody who likes to journal your feelings. Maybe you like to post about your feelings. Maybe you like to do those things. You should be marking down all of your wins. What are the things that you are your wins? What makes you feel like you achieved something? Write down your discoveries that happen outside of your job title, because those are probably things that could lead to part of your identity. Seek new experiences that build skills or interests unrelated to your professional path, things that reinforce your sense of multidimensional self. Um, and really, this is an important one: nurture friendships and communities where your work or school status um, isn't the main focus. So like I joined the Rotary Club in my neighborhood. Nobody knows my job title, or they don't know my title. They know me as my first name, right? And nobody's asking anybody about their titles. We're engaged in community projects together. Right now, we're doing a food drive to get, turkey dinners to people for Thanksgiving Day. That's the identity for everyone as a community member. Um, so get yourself into places that allow you to be something outside your job title, let you be seen and valued in a new and different way. So if you are intentional about learning and leaning into your personal qualities, your personal passions, your personal relationships, you will create a sense of self that's anchored in diverse aspects of who you are, not just what you do for work, not just what you do for study, not just what you said you were going to do when you were 5 years old, when you grew up. What did you want to be when you grow up? You're much bigger and broader than all of that. So, um, I thank you for coming on today. And that's all I have for today. That's a wrap. So thanks for joining today. I'll see you tomorrow at 4.